Hi. Thank you so much for joining me. It's really cold in here. That's why I'm wearing my designer jacket from Ross, Dress for Less. Welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to talk about the holidays and how it's so easy to get fat and how not to get fat. It's really simple. I didn't say easy, I said simple. The way to not get fat is to treat December like any other month when you're focused on not being fat. The problem is not Christmas Day. The problem is all the days leading up to Christmas Day when everybody's like, Christmas is coming and Rebecca is bringing cupcakes to the office and Starbucks has their new, gingerbread butthole macchiato, whatever, out. And you just think every single day you get these visual cues that it's Christmas. And what are the visual cues for Christmas? It's freaking candy canes and apple pie. Is apple pie a Christmas thing? But you know what I mean? It's all the visual cues are food. Even Santa is a big fat guy. So just everything is coming at your face like this is the time for you to eat. And I remember reading a study about how like one of the reasons why Americans are fat is that everybody gains like an average of 1 to 4 pounds a year at the holidays, but they never lose it all. It just stays. And then the next year they gain another 1 to 4 pounds. And you compound that every year. And the next thing you know, you've gained like 60 pounds. Why? Because of gingerbread butthole macchiatos, you know. So, what do you do? So, me and my Patreon subscribers are fasting in December, the ones who are joining the challenge. And I have a calendar. If you want to join at any level, it's patreon.com/foxforcefitness. Um, or you can just do it by yourself. I don't care. But the way to do it is to be like, especially if you're already fat. Honestly, this is for people who are already fat and you're like, I cannot get fatter at Christmas. Fast. So what I'm doing is I'm doing 72s all the way up until like right before Christmas Eve. And then for 2 days on Christmas Eve, you eat. It's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So eat. Now, if you decide that on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, you're just going to like stuff yourself until you need to go to the hospital, then that's not a great idea. But even if you do, think about it. You could fast all the way and just like totally binge out on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. But think about everybody else who's eating like shit and binging on those days. So, like, if you're especially if you're like, I'm going to eat a whole pie by myself on Christmas Day, and I know that I'm going to. All the more reason be fasting all the way up until. And what I do, because I've personally found that it works best for me. So, like, probably if you're on this channel, that if you just decide, I'm going to go from eating sandwiches and pretzels and cupcakes and like standard carby diet, and I'm just going to stop all that and fast especially if you're not used to fasting, you're going to have a really hard time. The hunger is going to be terrible, and you might even have like a blood sugar meltdown because your body's not accustomed to burning fat. So, the best thing that you can do is accustom your body to burning fat before you start fasting. If your body is used to burning the fat from your food because you're in ketosis and you're not giving it any carbs or sugar, then your body is going to have a lot easier time transitioning to burning your own body fat. This is why I urge everyone to take the time to cut carbs and get into ketosis before you try fasting. If you just go from carbs to fasting, you're going to have, it's a spectrum anywhere from like just uncomfortably hungry to like blood sugar crash. And I don't know what camp you're going to be in, but it will probably be somewhere on that spectrum. Whereas if you like get into ketosis first, the spectrum is from like, you know, totally fine to uncomfortably hungry. It's like you're at the other end of the spectrum. So what I do after holidays is what I call a keto step down or carnivore step down. So like, or holiday step down. Basically what it means is you have at least a day. On my calendar, I have a day because I'm comfortable fasting. I can do just a day and be okay. But you have at least one day after your, dressing and cranberry sauce and pie and all these carbs, you take at least one day where you just eat carnivore or keto or whatever is low carb enough for you. And one thing that you need to do is think about like, what is low carb enough for me? How long is it going to take me? And what's going to get me into ketosis so that I can comfortably fast? If you are not accustomed to fasting at all and this is new to you, you probably shouldn't jump right into this challenge. You should probably go take some time to get used to fasting, get into ketosis, um, make sure that you're able to fast short before you try to fast long. Because if you just go from like not fasting at all, or oh yeah, I've done some 16s or some 18s, and you try to do like you try to do some longer fasts, you're gonna have a really hard time. And even if you don't have a hard time physically, you probably won't have the mental discipline to stick with it. Willpower is like a muscle, and if you aren't accustomed to using it, it's just going to be like too much and too painful. So you build up. Um, Another thing I would say for the holidays, how long do you need to fast to get into ketosis? I'm not sure how to answer that question or why you're asking it. So maybe you can like explain what you want to know, because whether or not you're in ketosis, if your goal is weight loss and not like if you don't have some kind of health goal, like if you need to be in a ketogenic state because you have epilepsy or you are, trying to treat cancer, you want autophagy or something like that, then yeah, you need to worry about, am I technically spilling ketones? But if your goal is weight loss, then you don't really need to worry that much about, am I in ketosis? Just look at the scale. Um, Ketosis happens more quickly for everybody. And some people are so used to being in ketosis that they can actually, be not eating carbs for 3 or 4 days and they're still not spilling ketones because their body's really good at using them. So I wouldn't worry too much about, am I in ketosis? I would worry about biofeedback. So like if your goal is, I I've been eating carbs and I want to get into ketosis so that I know my body's burning fat and I can comfortably transition to fasting, then you'll know by your physical cues. So, like, let's say that you're sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and you're like, this is it. I'm going to cut carbs so I can be in ketosis so I can fast easier, right? Does everybody understand how this works? Because there's some confusion about this. And it's not fair for me to be like, shut up, it's simple, because I've been doing this and thinking about this a long time. So it's obvious to me, but maybe it's not obvious to you. When you're in ketosis, what that means is, very simplified terms, your body is using fat for fuel instead of carbs. You're not giving your body any carbs. Your body likes to burn glucose, but your body can create its own glucose through a process of called gluconeogenesis. So you don't actually have to take in dietary carbohydrate for your brain and body to have glucose to run on. Okay, so um, in ketosis, you're using fat as fuel. You can get into ketosis through just not eating carbs and like eating, just like carnivore, like a lot of fat, basically like cutting carbs. Tamara, okay, I'll hit that in just a second. But when you're in ketosis, you're using fat as fuel, but the fat's coming from your food. You can be eating like butter and, you know, I don't know, spam and pickles and you'll be in ketosis, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing weight. And I want to really reiterate that. You can be in ketosis and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're losing weight. Because if you're eating a pound of butter a day, that's still that you'll have people who will argue about this, but there's no way that you're going to drink like a gallon of heavy cream a day and like lose weight. You're just not going to, because you're taking in a ton of energy. So your goal is to get your body to where you're used to burning fat and then take away the food, and now your body's going to burn your own fat. But because your body just got used to burning fat, it's not going to be as painful. Because if you just go straight from eating carbs to fasting, your body's like burning glucose, and then you take away all the food and it's not used to burning fat. It's like, where's my glucose? You'll notice this if you like, especially whenever I transitioned to full carnivore for whatever reason, which I did full carnivore for a long time. But whenever I'll transition back for whatever reason, it's usually like stepping down to fasting. And what will happen is like the first thing I notice is I'm so hungry all the time for like maybe 2 or 3 days. And it's because your body is cueing you, like signaling you to eat because it wants glucose. And you just don't give it any. And eventually it like gives up and switches over to burning fat. And then you're like, fine. So what you'll notice after like 2 or 3 days, it's different for everybody. It could be a day, it could be like a week. But eventually you'll notice like if you just don't give your body any carbs and you keep eating carnivore or keto, that your body will be like, okay, and your hunger will shut up because you're like, okay, I'm going to burn fat. And then all of a sudden you're just not hungry. And that's like a lot of people's cue when they're in ketosis. You're just not hungry anymore. It just goes away. It's like magic. And you just don't think about food and you're like, oh my God, liberation. Another thing, cue that you might notice is like a funny, like dry metallic, not metallic, like just your mouth tastes like shit. It's like you know that feeling when you like drink too much and you wake up in the morning and you're just like, it's just like, did a squirrel piss in my mouth? It's like that, except like all the time for a couple of days and then it goes away. Um, those are like probably the two main ones. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm thinking of. Comment if you think of a ketosis signal that I've forgotten about. But if you really want to fast 72 hours, okay, no prob. You just cut carbs, get into ketosis, and you'll know it because you will stop being hungry and you might taste like a squirrel pissed in your mouth. And then um, you'll go from like ravenous all the time to I don't need to eat, and you're ready, girl, you're ready. Like now you can fast. I always know, like, you're like, okay, I can stop eating. When I first go carnivore, I'm just like shoving meat in my face all the time because I'm just so hungry because your body, you're not actually hungry, but your body's just telling you, eat glucose. Just eat. For the first couple of days, just don't even fight it. Just eat. And then you'll get to the point where you're like, I don't need to eat. Now you're ready to fast. Happens every time. It's amazing. It's like magic. So, but then practice, like if you just try to do 72 hours right off, I mean, people are different, but for me, I was so scared because I was used to feeling like I could get low blood sugar if I didn't eat. So the thought of not eating for 24 hours was really scary to me. The first time I did it, I was like, oh my God. But I was in ketosis already. And so it was fine. And I was like shocked by how easy it was. And I was like, oh my God. And then I did 48 and I didn't die and I didn't crash and it was just like fine. And so then I felt like this was going to be like a really easy thing and I didn't have to like worry anymore. I'm trying to delete a comment and I can't, but um, so if you are scared of fasting, just know that it's like a muscle. You do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And willpower is the same way. You just get it like a little bit at a time. And if you do that, then you will find that it's easier than you think it is. But I would just urge you to go through the process. Everybody wants to skip the process. Everybody wants to like be that person that can just like one day they just wake up and instead of eating like a foot long Subway sandwich, they're just gonna not eat for 3 days. Okay, like it's probably not you, bro. Like that's you're not gonna be able to do it. And so go through the process, cut carbs, get into ketosis. If you don't know what it means to not eat carbs, like it's really kind of pointless for me to sit here and tell you like what carbs are. The internet, I mean, the low carb dieting craze has been around since like the 90s. So the internet is probably 20% low carb dieting. So just like go look it up. It's out there. The information is extremely easily accessible. There's no excuse for you not to find it out. You could probably get a million websites in point 0.6 seconds on Google. So just go look up what is okay on a low carb diet. I will tell you that like the hardest slash easiest thing to do is to just get rid of anything that tastes sweet. So if you have a bunch of like keto cheat things, like, oh, these crackers are keto friendly, and this, these cupcakes are actually keto. First of all, people are putting that word on their shit just because it's going to sell stuff to people who are dieting, which is like everybody. So those keto muffins, do not eat those when you're trying to get into ketosis. They might be technically sugar free, but there's probably still a lot of carbs in them. I remember like a couple of years ago when I discovered like sugar free Russell Stover chocolates, and I was like, oh my God, they're sugar free. I can just eat them. I can just eat like 5 of them. First of all, they'll make you shit your pants, so be careful. Second of all, if you look at them, there's actually like, I don't even remember, like 14 grams of carbs per thing, and they're just not good. So just be careful. Like, pretty much, if you want to get into ketosis fast, the quickest, easiest way, spam and pickles. Pickles are good for your electrolytes because when you're in ketosis, especially for a long period of time, ow, my butt, this floor is hard. When you're in ketosis for a long period of time, your uh, your kidneys, you spill more ketones, like you lose sodium. You lose sodium is what I'm trying to say. So you want to like keep your sodium intake a bit higher. So so spam and pickles and ketosis, like that will get you there. If you just want to like idiot proof it, simplify it. I don't want to think about what I'm going to eat. Don't want to worry about it. I want the perfect fat to protein ratio to just get into ketosis as quickly as possible. I don't have to meal plan. I don't have to worry. I don't have to wonder. Go get some cans of spam. Bacon is pretty good too, but spam is a lot cheaper. And just eat that. Eat a can of spam and some like pickles. You're done. You're going to be so hungry for the first few days, but you eventually are just going to like stop being hungry. And it's going to be amazing because, like, oh my God, spam and pickles. And also another cool thing about eating, oh God, this floor is so hard. Another cool thing about eating like keto or carnivore is that like you eventually get so tired of the boring ass food that you can eat that you just are like, no, thank you, please. I don't want to eat it all. So I hope that this has explained like how to transition to fasting, and you should. Like, I really think that this is the mistake that most people make who are like, I can't fast. I've tried it. Well, you haven't tried it my way. You haven't tried transitioning into fasting by getting into ketosis first. It is a game changer for people who really think that they can't fast, and those people who are like, I can't go 6 hours without eating. My blood sugar will crash. I'll get sick. I'll throw up. I'll get a headache. My 5-year-old daughter says, so is me, instead of me too. So is me. Okay. I would get all of that stuff. Um, did my power just go out? Okay, I guess I have to cut this short because our power just went out. Can you guys even still hear me? No, I'm just gonna finish this in the darkness. I wonder what happened. So, yeah, I'm gonna keep talking. So I would get all that same stuff. Okay. So um, what I did was okay, good. You can hear me. What I did was I stopped eating carbs, like the hardcore carbs, like the breads and the pastas and the sugar. And then I kind of transitioned from there to a more hardcore keto. And I did it really quickly because I'd done keto before in the past. So then what I did was I just cut like everything all the way back. I did this like each thing like a day or two at a time until I was just like eating salad and meat, salad and meat. And then after I'd been doing that for a few weeks probably, and it was just nothing and no big deal, that's when I finally got up the nerve to try that first 24-hour fast. And when I got through it, I was like, that didn't kill me slash was actually really easy. So why not try a 48? And I'm telling you right now, I know it seems you're probably sitting there and you're thinking, okay, other people can do this, but she's different from me somehow. I promise you that I, at the time, was way unhealthier than you are now. I don't even care how unhealthy you are now. I weighed 278 pounds. I had high blood pressure. I was like pre diabetic, hypothyroid, Hashimoto's disease, polycystic ovary syndrome, endometriosis, like you name it, I had it. And I was in very, very bad shape. The reason that I decided to do this was because I blacked out while I was driving and my daughter was in the back seat and I had to be taken to the hospital because my blood pressure was so high. And I picked a doctor at random who took my insurance and he was like, yeah, we need to give you blood pressure medication and depression medication. But one of the reasons why you're having these problems is that you are, very overweight. And he showed me a chart, a weight chart, an obesity chart, and he pointed to my height and weight. And it was all the way over to the far right in the red. And and that was me. That was me at 278 pounds, like extremely obese off the charts. So um that's where I was at when I did this. I had terrible, terrible blood sugar control. So if you're thinking, no, I'll get sick, that was me. There is a way to do this. Okay. You're not an exception. If I can do this, then you can. What you have to do is take the time, tell yourself, I am worth the time, I am worth the patience, and I am capable of doing it. If I can go years and years getting fatter and fatter, and I can take a few weeks to start fasting. I'm going to be doing another challenge next month. If you can't join in December, you can join in next month. Join the Patreon or don't. I honestly do not give a shit. I'm not here to like push my Patreon. I'm here to tell you that it's there if you want the calendar and the community and all that shit. I don't care like at all. I don't do it for money. Like it does not pay my bills. I have to work full time um, to put food in my face occasionally and feed my daughter. Like it is a thing on the side that I do. And honestly, like I mainly use the Patreon as a funnel for people who are actually serious. Because let me tell you something, the people that I've helped many, many people. I have coached people for hundreds of dollars a month, and I've coached people for $0. And I will tell you that the people who pay money are the people who do well. And it's not because there's some magic thing. It's not because they even get like one-on-one coaching, because I've one-on-one coached people for free. I have, Carrie, I'll answer your question in just a second. I have coached people. Something just fell. It's probably fine. I've coached people because they were gonna die. I coached a chick who just been on a ventilator in ICU for many days because of acute pancreatitis, and she'd been diagnosed with diabetes, and she was gonna die if she didn't do something. And of course, her doctors were giving her absolute shit nutrition advice. I coached her for free, and I've coached people who paid me a lot of money. Um, the difference is that people who invest are invested. They see that money go away and they're like, shit, I just paid $300 for this. I better the F word get to it. Now, my Patreon is cheap, but at least you see that, that thing on your credit card statement every month and you're like, shit, I'm paying for that. I should probably check the page. It does something. It's like, okay, I'm paying for this. I'm invested in this at least a little bit. And if you want to invest more, there's a $25 level and you get merch. I keep forgetting to update the merch. It's already pretty good, but I need to make it better. But like there's something about paying something that makes people like cash in, and also it narrows it down. So like I used to have a Facebook group with like 1,500 people in it, but only 40 of them were actually active and fasting. So with Patreon, it's like it's a funnel for people who are actually serious, because everybody else is just a waste of my time. um and I would rather answer questions and make my stupid clip art calendars and stuff for people who are invested. So, Carrie, in answer to your question, is it okay to do 72s if you have 35 pounds to lose? Like, okay, I talk about this a lot, but most of us, our problem is not that we're overweight, it's that we're under muscled. And that's the problem with thinking about it in terms of a weight, because you can take somebody who's 5'7" and 135 pounds, and you could take a woman as well who's 5'7" and 165 pounds. And the 165-pound woman is well muscled and fit, and she like, gets under a barbell. And the 135-pound woman is skinny fat. And one of them is going to look better. And it's the 165-pound woman who has like active skeletal muscle. And she's also going to be metabolically superior, and she's going to be hormonally healthier, and she's probably going to look better, especially with no clothes on. So like, if you only have 35 pounds to lose, first of all, I mean, how are you determining that goal weight? Again, it's a weight and not a body fat percentage. So like body composition, what is it, etc. Like you have to think about like your body composition instead of your weight. And so if you have 35 pounds to lose, my question would be like, what's your body fat percentage? And if you're like, if you're like, okay, I weigh 185 pounds and I want to weigh 140 pounds, Denise, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Really happy to hear that. Then, yeah, it is my opinion. These people are here to hear my opinion. Then, you know, if you are trying to look good, feel good, and be healthy, it's not necessarily about the weight, because I have been 135 pounds at 5'7", and I was not happy with my body. I still had fat, but I couldn't lose it, because when you don't have enough muscle, you can't lose fat because you can't burn fat, because it's muscle that burns fat. So I would say you need to take some time at some point. Please ignore this guy who's trolling, please. Um, if you are, if you think you only have 35 pounds to lose, it might be that you need to stop thinking about the weight on the scale and start thinking about the weight on a barbell, and gain some skeletal muscle and do like a bulk and then go back and do a cut. And you're going to look so different when you lose weight, when you have some muscle versus when you don't. And you'll be able to lose fat because you'll have muscle burning. And plus, you got to realize that like metabolic disorder begins in the skeletal muscle. Insulin resistance begins in the skeletal muscle. Um, you need to take some time to gain that muscle. And this is really hard for women to hear because they don't want to stop losing weight. They don't want to hear like you need to take some time and actually gain weight, because it is really, it's really psychologically hard for us to see that number go up and like ignore that number and pay attention to what's actually going on inside our bodies. It's so hard. I really, really struggled with it, but I'm so, so glad that I did it. In like 5 or 6, I think it was 6 months, less than 6 months, I went from, I mean, I got my deadlift up to 250 pounds in 6 months. And I didn't really gain that much weight. And it was just such an empowering experience. And it will also make you burn more fat even when you are at rest. Abdi Karani went to eat on refeed. You need to lose over 100 pounds. Welcome. And you can totally do that. So this is exactly meant for people like you. So please watch the whole video if you haven't, and make sure that you're transitioning up, building up, so that you stay, safe when it comes to your blood sugar and you don't crash. So what you eat on a refeed is really important, especially when you're starting out, because when you're starting out and your body's not used to fasting, if you eat a lot of carbs on your refeed, then you're going to have a hard time just going back to your fast. And so you should try to keep the carbs down, because it's just going to make it easier, especially when you have that much weight to lose. It won't be that hard. Like when I had that much weight to lose, it was pretty easy to just eat a low carb meal and then go right back to fasting. Because I mean, honestly, you have so much body fat to feed off of that it's like it really doesn't get hard um, to fast until your body fat gets lower, and then it actually gets pretty difficult. So in the beginning, also, it's going to be like when fasting is relatively new to you, it's kind of like a bell curve. I'm making hand gestures that you can't see. I forgot you can't see me. Sorry about that, you guys. I really don't know why the power went out in my house. I need to go figure it out in a minute, but right now I need to do this. So like, um, basically you start out fasting on 72s and it's really, really hard. And then for a while it gets pretty easy because you get used to it. And it doesn't get hard again until your body fat starts to get low. So in those magical couple of months when it's easy or easy-ish, I would just encourage you to take advantage of that and keep your refeeds low carb. It's easier when you're already eating low carb, which you should be because you need to be in ketosis first. So eat like what I would eat was like a big ass Greek salad with like some chicken in it or some steak or something like that. And I would just eat the same thing every time. When you eat the same thing every time, you just eliminate the extra variable of food. And you know that, when you hit something that works, like for me, that salad worked. Like I would get really full, I'd be satisfied, and then I would just stop eating for another 72 hours. If you do it that way, and you know that that works, then you just take out the extra variable. If you're switching it up every time, then you never know when you're gonna like eat something that makes you extra hungry or you don't get full or whatever. So keep it low carb. A steak and a salad, that's great. Anything like that. If you are like, oh my God, I'm only eating once every 3 days, so I can totally eat whatever I want, you're gonna have a hard time because your carbohydrates gonna go up and that's gonna, trigger those hunger signals from eating carbs. It's gonna make it really difficult to just go right back into another fast for, the rolling 72. So I would really encourage you to keep it low carb. And also you're gonna lose more weight faster. And I mean, wouldn't you just rather get it over with like as quickly as possible? Um, so I would like to thank you all for hanging in, even though my power went out and you can't see me. Or maybe you're like, thank God I don't have to look at that chick's face. Uh, I'm really sorry about the technical mishap, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and end this now because of my power being out and go figure out what's going on. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you want to join my Patreon, and once again, I don't care if you do or not, but I love to have you. I do try to post on there. Like lately, it's only been probably like a couple times a week because of the fact that I am working full time as always and have a 5-year-old full time on my own as always, and also final exams right now because I'm in a master's program. So it is really rough right now. Um, so, however, I do, especially during challenges, try to post like a couple times a week. And I always like post in there when I'm going to be live streaming. And I post our challenge calendars in there. And also, you're always welcome to message me through there if you have questions. And I do try to get to everybody as quickly as possible. And if you chime into this live chat and say, I'm a patron, then I will answer your question as quickly as I can. I do appreciate all my patrons very much. So that is patreon.com/foxforcefitness. I just posted a calendar that goes December 5th through January 5th with the holiday step downs so that you know, like, kind of how to transition into and out of the holiday fast. And thank you, Denise. I appreciate you. And if you have questions, you're free to join and message me there. Leave a comment below. I do try to answer everyone's comments. I have probably missed some, but I do try to stay on top of that. Unless they're just stupid, in which case I'm not going to do that. Thank you again for being here. I do hope that you'll join me. I'm really excited to be fasting in December. I love getting to the end of the holiday and starting the new year and feeling like, okay, well, everyone else is miserable and hates themselves, and I am not, and I don't. It's a good feeling. There's no reason to do that to yourself. So if you'd like some guidance, then join Patreon, and I will see you there. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.